This Family Life News podcast is made possible by the support of listeners like you.
Looking at the importance of fathers as we approach Father's Day. Welcome back to another edition of Real Answers, a regular Wednesday feature during the Family Life Noon Report, where we discuss the issues that matter to families with licensed mental health counselor Christopher Anderson. Welcome back, Chris.
Always a pleasure to be here, Mark.
Always, and an early happy Father's Day to you. And
thank you, and you too.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate that. So we're going to take a look here today at the importance of fathers, father figures, and being an active presence in a family. I mean, a lot of modern society seems to have kind of downplayed that role, but that's certainly not how Scripture looks at it.
Definitely not. I mean, there is just an abundance of support in the Bible for the importance of fathers. Obviously, God is our Father. And, you know, the reality is, again, no better time, like you said, Mark, to discuss the importance and also discuss what's happening with men in society in general and what needs to be done about it.
Yeah, let's dive into that a little bit. There's been a decided push culturally against the traditional masculine father figure in a family, but that's not really done wonders for the state of the family, has it?
Most certainly not. I'm sure many of our listeners have seen recently how governors in a lot of the more conservative states have actually decided to rebrand June in honor of the nuclear family. It is just so important that, you know, we see that it's not just about celebrating Father's Day as much as it is just understanding that this is a real battle for the very integrity of our society, and also understanding that fathers and men in general have really been, we'll say, beaten up by society's trends in the past couple of decades and even before that. But we're now starting to see a push back in the other direction, which is good. It's such a timely topic, Mark, so incredibly important as well.
Yeah, you certainly kind of hit a low point in New York State recently when lawmakers, before they wrapped up their session, decided to try to rebrand mothers and fathers as gestating parents and non-gestating parents. I think it kind of sums up the state of things in a lot of states.
It sure does, and that is a very, very sad commentary on what has happened. And when you move away from a solid biblical foundation of truth and morality, this is the type of thing you get. I tell folks a lot of times, just casually, not necessarily my practice, I try to stay away from saying I'm surprised that, because not much surprises me anymore. But, you know, the reality is when we say that there is no such thing as truth, this is the type of thing we get. An issue like that highlights how incredibly important it is for parents, and especially fathers, to get involved in school boards and get involved in your local school districts and just understand what is happening. A lot of this stuff, these trends, these outrageous philosophies that are starting to be pushed at the government level are going to be woven into curriculum in our public schools in a way that's not necessarily blatant. And I'll tell you what, that is intentional. They're not going to advertise it when they start teaching your children about their non-gestating and their gestating parents. That is just... They're not going to, you know, publish a big newspaper article. Well, nobody reads newspapers anymore, I don't think. But, you know, it's not going to make headlines. And that's intentional. That is intentional, because they do not want the pushback. We have got to be involved. And fathers, we've got to step it up. There's such a crisis of healthy fathering and healthy masculinity. The irony in all that is certain elements of the political spectrum like to label healthy masculinity and healthy fathering as toxic. And it's just unbelievable.
Absolutely. You're listening to Real Answers here on Family Life. I'm Mark Webster, along with licensed mental health counselor Christopher Anderson, talking about the important role that fathers can and should play in their families and in society. So let's talk about the positives here. What should the dad in a Christian home look like, Chris?
It really is understanding the importance of being actively involved in your children's development. Having age-appropriate conversations on the topics that are very difficult to discuss, teaching them about sex or teaching them about dating and what we're actually seeing. It's never been more important to counter what they're hearing in the media, seeing on television, or otherwise in schools. You are your child's most influential force still, okay? Even if they're spent a lot of time in school, you've got to know what they're being taught so you can counteract it. It is so important to do that. So being active, and there's a real problem with passivity in our society. Go down any street in our Pennsylvania, New York listening area. Who do you see hanging out on the streets more and more? These are fully capable young men and young adults, really. Some of them might be on drugs. Some of them might just not know what to do with themselves or otherwise unemployed. But this is exactly what's happening. And your children are going to see it, and you got to be ready to explain playing. So just being really active and understanding how powerful your input is with your children and shaping their values and shaping despite what they're hearing in school. And then, of course, getting involved in knowing what they're being taught in school. There's so much pushback on that. Unfortunately, we've seen it happen in previous presidential administrations where parents that were attending school board sessions were labeled as domestic terrorists. I mean, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
This is just unbelievable. So there's never been a time more important for fathers to really stand up for their children, to take on that mantle of leadership, take on that mantle of directly shaping your children through conversation at appropriate levels, of course, on various topics, and just really knowing and being very, very vigilant as to what they are taking in on any kind of social media. You've heard me say before, your kids should not be on social media, quite honestly, before they're old enough to pay for that cell phone bill themselves.
Well, it's that old expression, like father, like son. You know, that can be good, that can be not so good. It's
Absolutely.
all a matter of the role model that you're providing for your children and daughters too. You know, we don't always think of it as a father-son thing, but daughters need to see what a real man looks like too.
Absolutely. They need to have it modeled. Like, how are they going to be treated by their future spouses themselves? And dads, that is fully on your shoulders right there, to love their moms and to treat them well and treat them the way that you want your own daughters to be treated. How does that hit you? So think about it in that way. How do you want your daughters to be treated? Well, that's how you need to treat their moms, quite honestly. And listen, I get it. I know we've got single parents out there. That's not a blanket statement. I know the single parents are doing the best that they can, but also look for ways in your churches to support single parents. There's just so many ways that churches can step up their efforts in providing support for single parent families and just initiating relationships with strong, godly men in the church. Men serve in your church and serving, like we've got VBS season coming up and that type of thing. There's just never been a more important time to really be leaders in our families and to really step up our efforts as it is right now.
Well put. You've been listening to Real Answers, a Wednesday feature of the Family Life Noon Report, where we discuss the issues important to families with licensed mental health counselor Christopher Anderson. Thanks again, Chris, and happy Father's Day.
Yeah, thank you, Mark.
Thank you for listening to this Family Life News podcast. If you've been encouraged by what you've heard, please share it with others and click the subscribe button to automatically receive future episodes. Family Life is a listener-supported ministry. Podcasts like this are made possible by your financial partnership. Find out more at familylife.org.